Welcome back to AP US History. This is Chapter 3. This is Part 5. We're now focusing our attention on the Middle Colonies. These colonies consisted of Pennsylvania, New York, Delaware, and New Jersey. They're often called the Restoration Colonies because these are colonies that come after the king has been restored to the throne after the English Civil War. This shows some settlements in the Restoration colonies. The Dutch and the Swedes will settle this area first, and then they'll be pushed out by the English. And so we'll see how this transpires. Characteristics of the Middle Colonies, basically farming, considered the breadbasket colonies because a lot of grain was shipped from this area. Less aristocratic than New England and Southern colonies, except New York. Fewer industries than New England colonies, but more than the Southern colonies. Known for shipping and commerce, and the population was certainly mixed. A lot of different people from a lot of different countries there. Considered more religious tolerance there, more democratic, at least in other parts other than New York. And we'll see how that works out. In terms of New York, the little history, the Dutch are the first Europeans to claim this area. Henry Hudson is going to sail up the Hudson River and down into Delaware, and he will claim this area for the Dutch. This settlement in the New World in North America is going to be called New Netherlands, and it's going to be founded by Peter Minuit. The Dutch West Indies Company are going to set up trading posts there and buy furs from Indians. Manhattan Island is purchased for $30. What a bargain. New Amsterdam, later New York City, is going to be the main seaport. And this shows New Amsterdam, later called New York. The city is run by the company in interest of stockholders. There's not much religious freedom, freedom of speech, or democratic activity. As far as rich landowners are concerned, they established what they call patroonships, where if you would bring over 50 settlers, you would get a large tract of land along the Hudson River. In 1640, there were 18 known languages to exist in New Amsterdam, later to be called New York. This shows the patroon system. The fall of New Netherlands. They had a lot of problems, particularly with the Indians, and eventually they built a wall, which later became Wall Street, to keep the Indians out on Manhattan Island. New England was a little bit hostile to this New Netherlands. They see the Dutch as a threat to them. And meanwhile, the Swedes trespass on the Dutch land in the Delaware area. They set up a colony. And this will last for a few years, from 1638 to 1655. Peter Stuyvesant ends the Swedish rule. He just marches down and tells them to get out, and no shots are fired. The Swedish colony is absorbed by New Netherlands, but unfortunately, in 1664 for the Dutch, Charles II will order the military to remove the Dutch from New Netherlands. Peter Stuyvesant is forced to surrender without a shot being fired. So then ends the rule of the Dutch in North America. They'll continue to rule in Southeast Asia, but they're kicked out of North America, at least in that part of the world. Immediately, Charles' brother, the Duke of York, was given control. He's a proprietorship of this New York. One of the things that happens is the New York Charter or Chapter of Liberties is passed under the Duke of York, which grants more religious freedom to all Christians and gives suffrage to all landowners. things are looking up. Significant steps leading to the eventual democracy in New York. Um, well, New York becomes a royal colony in 1685. Uh, it had a autocratic flavor in terms of social structure. A lot of rich folks at the top. This fact alone seemed to have retarded some of the people who wanted to go there. The population growth, they just weren't interested in going there. Um, Eventually, things get to a point where the poor farmers rise up against the British, and another rebellion breaks out. This was Leicester's rebellion, and poor farmers are revolting against the rich landowners. Jacob Lester leads a group of white poor whites farmers against the aristocratic class to change things. Um, but unfortunately, his revolt fails and he's hanged. But things do change somewhat after that, for the better. Pennsylvania, founded in 1681 by William Penn. Again, a proprietorship. The king owes him money, so he gives him a tract of land in North America. Uh, Penn is a Quaker, and he wants to create a safe haven for the Quakers. He believes that liberal ideas could be incorporated into government and still make a profit. And so he starts what he calls the Holy Experiment, which will give religious freedom and democratic freedoms to the people living in his colony. William Penn, this Holy Experiment, good friends with John Fox, and he truly wants to make things better for the Quakers. This shows the royal land grant given to Penn by the king. Penn treats the Native Americans with respect, as do his other Quakers. They believe that they must buy the land from the Indians and treat them fairly. And they get along pretty well with the Native Americans. The Quakers will be the most dominant group in Pennsylvania. There'll be other people coming there, of course, but they pretty much call the shots. The reason that the Quakers were oppressed in England is because they see the church as very corrupt, and they don't think there's any way to save it. They refuse to support the Anglican Church with their taxes. The Quakers were persecuted because of that, and they find that Pennsylvania is a much better place to live than in England. And so England will establish this colony for the Quakers. George Fox here, a good friend of William Penn. He was the leader of the Quakers in Pennsylvania. Basic beliefs of the Quakers. They believed that everyone needed to accept Christ as their savior. They didn't have a paid clergy, took no oaths. They were pacifist. They said, no, we won't take up any arms against anyone. And in fact, they will not fight in the Revolutionary War, and they'll be criticized for that. Sought religious and civic freedoms for all. Believed that everyone had a spark of goodness in them, in their soul. They didn't believe in the total corruption of man, as did the Calvinists. Saw men and women equal before God, which is kind of an unusual when you consider that the society was dominated by men. So other people living there, Swedes, Finns, Dutch, they all become naturalized into the colony. And of course, Penn will buy land from the Indians and try to maintain a good relationship with Native Americans. Representative government, if you were a landowner, you had the right to vote. You didn't have to pay taxes to support the church, and you could worship however you saw fit. Quakers were opposed to slavery. In fact, they will lead the fight to end slavery in America. They made no provision for military defense because they believed in a pacifist doctrine. This shows Pennsylvania and the land grant. New Jersey is going to be founded in 1664. It's a Quaker settlement. and we'll stop there and pick it up part 6